On my planet, it's not an S. It stands for hope. Let's talk Man of Steel.
Mike's Movie Reviews! Yeah!
Alright guys, I'm recording this later than I want to, so I'm going to throw the spoilers for this movie that I have for it. That's stuff I can only talk about with saying stuff from the movie at the end of this review. So the first half will be spoiler free, and then after that, if you haven't seen the movie, stop watching because I'm going to delve into details of this movie. Alright, for starters, everyone was great in this movie. Start with Russell Crowe. His performance as Jor-El was spot on. It was perfect, and personally, the first 20 minutes with Jor-El in there were probably my favorite parts of the movie. And then later, if you know anything about Superman, Jor-El's still alive as an AI, so I don't consider that a spoiler. So he's back, and he's still a badass even once he's dead. Then you have Michael Shannon as General Zod. This isn't the same General Zod you remember from the second movie. No, this guy actually, he has a purpose to what he's doing. He's not menacing, but he's not meant to be. I feel like his line could have been written better, but I still felt that this is not a villainous character. It's someone who knows why they're doing this, and even though their means are evil, they are looking for something good. I'll get into more in the spoiler part of this review, but Michael Shannon did a good job for what he was given. Henry Cavill was great as Superman. He was up there with Reeves. I mean, Reeves will always be Superman to anyone who's seen those movies first. Maybe in a couple years, people will recognize Henry Cavill more as Superman, but until then, he's not up there. But he was great. What I like about this is Clark Kent isn't like a secret identity. Clark Kent is Kal-El. And I think he did a great job as Clark Kent, who was Superman. And unlike in other movies where he's throwing on this facade, Clark Kent wants to do good just as much as Superman does, and that's revealed through the course of the movie. Again, I'll get into more of that later. Kevin Costner did a good job. There are a couple of his scenes that could have been cut, but I think that's just because of how big this movie was. There's too many scenes in general that some needed to go, and some of those were the ones with Kevin Costner, but Kevin Costner did a great job. Lawrence Fishburne also did really good as Perry White, but again, I felt his scenes could have been cut too. Not all of them. I mean, some of them were really important to the story, but then there's some later which I was left wondering why. Get to that later, but some of those need to go. And you had Amy Adams, who I think had her best performance to date. The only other thing I've seen her in was Enchanted, so that's the only thing I'm comparing it to. But I know other people might feel differently, that I understand why Superman was attracted to Lois Lane in this movie, and why she was attracted to Superman. It made sense to me. And Amy Adams did a great job. Some of the military people, their lines weren't the best, but I mean, with what they were given, they performed the lines well. But overall, I felt everyone added to the movie, and I definitely didn't feel that anyone subtracted from it. The music, the score, it was great. It's up there with the top scores in movies. It's up there with the Nolan Batman, the original Superman movies. It was a really good score. The way they did the flashbacks were really cool with this movie, because it starts off on Krypton, like any great Superman movie should. That's an origin story. And then after that, instead of wanting to go back to him as a kid right after that, since they spent a lot of time on Krypton, they decided to do the flashbacks spread throughout the movie instead of all at one time. So during the first hour, there's a lot of flashbacks to why Clark's feeling this way, and I like the way that's done. I don't want a whole bunch of time spent to young Clark, because we had a whole TV show about that already, and I love Smallville. So I like the way they did it. I just felt that there's too many, and not all of them were placed at the right time, but it was still better than showing me a whole line of young Clark, because I personally don't care about him. And the fight scenes in this movie, that's been oh my god, they were awesome. I mean, destroying buildings, super people fighting. This Clark Kent can kick ass. The Superman can kick ass. This guy is strong. He's using that sun energy. He's beating the shit out of people, flying through buildings, flying through people, big explosions. Fight scenes are awesome. There's a couple I could have done without because it's like fight scene, fight scene, fight scene, fight scene. So there could have been a bit more story elements to it, but the fight scenes were amazing. I just mean with a movie this large, not all of them need to be in there, but I couldn't specifically say more than one that I would have taken out myself. So I can see where Zack Snyder had his problem. You can definitely see his action chops for 300 here. But just because there's all this action doesn't mean there's not humor. There's the scene you see from the commercials where Superman's being interrogated, and he's basically, just letting the humans think that they have an advantage on him. There's some funny moments that come out of that. And then near the end of the movie, because obviously the government's going to be distrusting if an alien shows up. So they're trying to find out where Superman is. And he's just like, I'm from Kansas. I'm as American as it gets. And that's like my favorite line in the movie, and I thought that was great. That's all I can say about this movie without giving away anything from that actually happened in it. So I guess just kind of score it. I personally love this movie, but I can also see where people had problems with it. Is it the perfect movie? No, but what I think this movie's going to suffer from is the Nolan or Dark Knight effect, which is The Dark Knight was basically as perfect as a movie can be. It is probably my favorite movie of all time, let alone favorite comic book movie, favorite superhero movie. No, it's just a great movie that is like perfection in film. So yes, that one will also get a perfect score, but just because a movie's not as perfect as that, does that mean you don't give that a perfect score? I don't think so. I mean, The Dark Knight Rises obviously was not as good as The Dark Knight, but it was still a great movie and it was a good ending to it. Was Batman Begins as good as The Dark Knight? I personally don't think so, but it was a great movie, and that deserved a perfect score. This movie, the way that they're hyping it, because it was hyped too much, all the trailers, you're thinking you're going to get a Dark Knight movie. So obviously if you're aiming for that, more than likely you're going to fall short. But it's definitely in that range of Batman Begins or The Dark Knight Rises, for me anyways. So regardless of the Nolan effect, which is why some people, I feel why some people aren't giving it a perfect score, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. It was a great movie. I suggest everyone go see it in theaters. Go see it again. I'm probably going to go see it again before it's over because I haven't seen it in 3D yet. Just because a movie has a couple of flaws doesn't mean it's not a great, perfect score caliber movie. Alright, from this point forward, there's going to be spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, pause the video, run to your car, drive to your closest theater, buy a ticket, watch the movie, come back, and then watch the rest of their videos. And then you can leave comments to discuss what you thought of the movie, because I would like to know that. Okay, let's delve into the details here. Okay, the first problem I have in this movie is there are definitely some scenes that need to go. There's this one scene, like I said, there's too many fight scenes, and there's one in particular I felt could have been taken out. There's the scene where Superman needs to destroy the drill. So he's got this kind of a drill, and it's changing the atmosphere to make Earth into Krypton. And Superman flies there, and the robot drone things are there, and it turns into a snake, and he's like doing this snake fight scene. And I just felt that was a dumb fight scene, and it could have been taken out. It could have saved me 5-6 minutes. Then there's some Lawrence Fishburne scenes that could have gone. Because there's this character, Jenny Olsen, who is, obviously supposed to represent Jimmy Olsen from the comics, but there's no explanation to why Perry White cares about Jenny Olsen, and he literally goes back into a building and tries to save her, and that's a good 10 minutes that could have been cut because they didn't give me any explanation to why Perry White would risk his life for this girl and forces other employees to help risk her life when they could all be getting out of danger. So I felt that could have went. And then, in particular, I thought there's probably too many flashbacks. There's the flashback that you see in the previews where Superman, as a boy, has his cape on. That's to represent that, yes, Kevin Costner did realize that his son could be a hero. But I felt that was evident throughout the movie, and that one didn't need to be there. And then there's also the one where he's getting bullied and he's like, oh, I so wanted to punch that kid. And Kevin Costner like, oh, I felt you should have. I don't think that one added anything to the movie. So that one I also personally would have yanked. There's only specific scenes I felt could have been taken out completely. But, I mean, this is a long movie. Obviously, those choices are tough. So they probably had to get rid of a lot of stuff that they did shoot anyways. So I understand why they're in there, but they just shouldn't have been. Another problem I have is that the other Kryptonians who weren't Zod, Clark, or Jor-El didn't have any backstory. And I felt if he's fighting against all these other people, being soldiers of Zod is not a good enough explanation. Why did they join him? Was it just because they were bred from the Codex, which is all Kryptonians are specifically born for a specific job, so they're run through the Codex, so maybe it's because of that. And another problem I have with the movie there is that Clark is Kal-El in this sense. He is the first natural born birth child. I'm pretty sure it's like a couple centuries. So if all these Kryptons need to be born for specific jobs, how did Jor-El and his wife have a natural born kid without anyone finding out? I mean, I'm pretty sure that their genes are close enough to where they would need 9 months for birth too, so how did no one figure that out? And if people did figure that out, then why didn't anyone try to stop them? Because that seems like something that would be against the law if it had happened in 2 centuries and everyone is born into this caste system like in India. That's never explained. So I don't understand how it happened. But then, other stuff came out of the Kryptonian world scenes that I thought were great. Like I said, I'm going to expand on General Zod. Well, here it is. General Zod, in the old movies, at least to me, just seemed like a villainous character. In this one, he is a normal general-type character. He is someone who believes that violence is the answer. War will solve this, and his world got destroyed because of bad politics. So what did he want to do? He wanted to destroy the government. I can feel why he would do that. He was trying a military takeover. And then what's he want to do? He wants to make a new Krypton on Earth, because that's what the old society used to do. And because the Codex has been placed inside Clark Kent, they need Kal-El to do that. There's one more problem I had with this movie, but I mean, if we're going for realism here, then I guess it makes sense. Superman kills Zod at the end of the movie. And any time that I've heard of a Superman story, I felt that he was just like Batman, and he refused to kill. There's a great scene from the Justice League, a great episode from the Justice League TV series, which is great. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. All the DC animated universe is great. But there's an episode where the Justice League meets a parallel version of themselves. And what happened here is that Superman decided to kill Lex Luthor. And this made all of the Justice League turn into people willing to kill and became more tyrants. And I feel a Superman that kills would be a tyrant, because then he'd try to take justice into his own hand. But in this movie, it kind of makes sense, because he feels horrible about doing it, horrible about happening, so now I can understand why he would refuse to kill Lex Luthor in the future, or any other villain. And I mean, the reason that he killed him was there was a family of people, Zod was using his laser, and I can feel why he'd kill him. I just hope that this isn't a Superman that is willing to kill anymore. I hope that they go with the doesn't want to kill anyone after this. But that's the last flaw in the movie, and I can understand that one. Then there's some other really good stuff that happened. What's neat about Henry Cavill's Superman here is that in the previews it looks like he's trying to find himself, and some people have been viewing the movie like that. But instead, I see it more as he's trying to find out who he is, like literally who he is, like where he's from, why he has these powers, what's going on with him. I feel like all the jobs that he's taken, at the shack in Alaska, up in the Arctic, wherever they're doing their sighting thing, I feel that's all to discover where he's from. Like I feel like he knows who he is, and he's just waiting for the right time to reveal to everyone else who he is. But that's just the way I interpret the movie, and I thought it was a really neat aspect to it. There's when they're doing the giant Zod Superman fight scene, he crashes into the Wayne satellite. I'm sure you've heard of this rumor if you've looked into it at all, and it's there. And I'm really excited to see now this universe that obviously Batman does exist. There's also a bunch of LexCorp stuff on different buildings and tanks during the fight scene, so it's like Lex Luthor exists in this world. It has me excited for the future. The way this world's set up, it doesn't rule out the possibility of Nolan's Batman universe existing in this universe, which I think would be really neat if it happens. I'm hoping it does, but I'm doubtful it does. But until another Batman movie is made that is specifically said to be in this universe, then I'm going to keep my hopes out, because I think it would be really cool if Christian Bale and Henry Cavill were in the same movie together. World's Finest movie would be perfect. Obviously, this is all setting up towards a Justice League movie, inevitably, and I really hope that Lex Luthor is the villain to this movie. I feel like he can be the villain to the second Man of Steel movie, and then be the villain in the Justice League movie, kind of like how Loki was. Because I feel like that's the kind of character Lex Luthor could be. He's the guy pulling the strings. He's the guy trying to figure out what all could happen. I think if he's done right, and not like in the old movies where he's comedian, like more like in the animated series where you can see his menacingness, kind of like in Smallville where he's evil. He could really be a great villain. Even with these flaws, like it is a great movie. I suggest seeing it. I am really excited to see where this universe goes. Again, really hoping it connects with the Nolan universe. But that's all I got for you. See ya. Alright guys, so I got a lot more content coming this week. There's some reviews I haven't been able to put out because I was on vacation last week. So there's some old reviews. I got reviewed Fast 6, Oblivion, I still never reviewed, and The Purge I all saw. I'm going to get those reviews up this week. I know it's late. You probably won't care about them, but I'm still going to do them. I recorded part of them before, so I'm going to finish that. And then there's a new segment that I'm going to start soon. Maybe I'll put it out tomorrow, but during the weekends I watch a lot of DVDs of older movies, and I want to do a segment where I do quick reviews of these older movies. Well, I wouldn't say older movies, since some of them just came out earlier this year, but until I get caught up on watching all these movies in theaters, and I mean, until and if I ever get invited to screenings, then I'm going to get these reviews out later, so I can only watch so many movies. So a lot of these movies I'll wait to watch on DVD for this segment, and I'm going to start that soon. Alright guys, please check out the rest of my stuff. Like, comment, share, subscribe.